Hey everybody, welcome to Fuse Room, Alberto here. Today I want to talk about something I get asked a lot, and it's about reverbs in game audio. Now, a lot of people ask me, is there a reverb you prefer or a combination of reverbs that you prefer in game music when you're scoring stuff? Are there any tricks you would like to suggest? And I'm still working on a session. I've been doing it for a couple of days now. We're moving part of a track from a cutscene to potential game menu or sort of an interlude cut. And I noticed something that I haven't quite talked about that I wanted to take this chance for and just do a video on. It's a trick I utilize quite a lot, and this has been quite successful with a couple plugins. You can use everything and anything really, but I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Let's jump over to the DAW. And here we are in the session. There's a couple things going on, but I want you to concentrate on the DC low perk and DC high perk. Okay, so the low perk sounds like this. And the high perk sounds like this. Okay, so together they sound like this. It's a very nice part, but the first thing I want to talk about when referring to reverb is probably kind of gonna surprise you, but it's not about reverb plugins, it's about the ambience that is already in the sound libraries that we're all using. Some of these libraries have been recorded, actually most of the ones I use, in some of the best environments ever. So instead of using some sort of reverb plugin emulating maybe that same space, there's a lot of ambience you can bring up with compression, but it's just a matter of dialing in the compressors. Some of them are harder to dial in than others, and then there's stuff that just works. Now, these two plugins, these two instances of the Opto-3A, represent the easier version of it. It just sounds unbelievably good. I love this compressor for percussion in general, even in hardware form, but this is much more convenient because of the contour, high pass, and dry wet, obviously. So I'm gonna have you listen to what it sounds like, the two of them, while I'm instantiating the compressor. Listen to the ambience and how much it brings in to the actual sound of the part. So there's a lot of volume. I needed that because I was mixing as I was going. But as you can tell, there's a lot more aggression factor to it. It just sounds unbelievably better. So there's a little bit of an HF contour so that I am towards the cutting of the highs and then high passing the lows quite extremely in the detector. So there's all the skins of these percussions that are getting compressed, but not the lower part of the timpanis and stuff like that. Now, after this, there comes reverb as well, actually, because there's these Clearmountain spaces, still by Apogee, that it's a recent addition of mine that just sounds unbelievable. So how do you find whether or not a reverb works for game audio? Well, there's no game audio reverbs. There's just the fact that when dealing with game music, usually you want to have probably a lot of energy. You want to deliver a lot of excitement to the players. And so there's some reverbs that aim at a little bit of that additional energy contribution. And if used, considerably well, the Clearmountain spaces is definitely one of them. But there's a little bit more than just this. However, I'm going to raise this fader and I'm going to bring this into the picture while the percussion's playing. Okay, so we got high elements, we got low elements, but I'm just applying it as a send. So I'm going to make sure that these are instantiated and then they're in pre-fader. That's another important aspect. I kind of like to blend them in so that they kind of go a little bit further behind the other instruments, as if it, was kind of the percussion placement of the real orchestra. So I'm going to bring the fader up while it's playing. Now bear in mind, this is with my entire mix bus still going on there, so you heard that little bit of soft saturation that got kind of grittier when I went a little bit overboard. But you hear how this plugin just works behind the actual reverb that we actually enhanced with the Opto-3A. It's just unbelievable. But here comes the trick. Something you might want to do when you're dealing with reverbs that are aimed at kind of conveying more energy is to compress the signal either before the reverb or after, or actually sometimes I've done it before and after. In this case, I've only done it before. So this Opto-3A is compressing the signal before it gets into the compressor. And I'm contouring differently. There's a high pass here that's just set a little bit differently, but I want to have it play, and while it's going, I'm going to instantiate these compressors. So the reverb's still there, but then it's going to get compressed before getting into the reverb, the send return signal. Let's try that. Why do I like this? Well, all of a sudden, you can go more extreme. I'll try that in a second. All of a sudden, the transients are a little bit clearer. So the energy of the mallets, the sticks, everything, anything you might have in your library is kind of getting across a little bit cleaner. And that helps when you have a busier setup. But the air is kind of getting a little bit more artificial, so to speak, but it works awesomely for this kind of music. So I'm going to try and go a little bit overboard. I'm going to save it as a B preset. Let's try and crank it up so you really understand what I mean by this. You hear how subtle that was when I dropped the fader down? It's almost like, was it there? And this is really a sign to me that the reverb I picked works incredibly well with the source material here. Now I'm going to dial in something else, like a couple synths, so that you can really understand how this is pushing the percussion to pierce through while maintaining that sort of like buoyancy, which is like, two things at the same time, two very nice elements to have in a soundtrack that are going to translate through the headphones, things like that, without sacrificing anything. So I'm just going to add the synthesizers, nothing else. So you have kind of a canvas, and you're going to feel how this reverb and the compression kind of fills the space through. I'm going to play it as it is, then I'm going to start cutting plugins and things around so you hear how much we're missing. It's a simple thing if you think about it, but it means a lot in terms of translating a message into the cutscene or the game experience in general. If you think about it, a lot of the times it's not about how many tracks you have, it's just about that vibe, that moment in time that kind of helps the game in what's happening and helps putting the players into it. And there you have it. It's a little bit of a nugget into a huge topic for sure. But it's moves like these that set your productions apart and make the music appealing to the environment that the game is portraying. So let me know how it goes. Let me know if you've used something like this, if you actually want to have anything else covered in this topic, if you'd like me to talk about anything else. And until next time, ciao.